Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. I'm Blair Kerkhoff. It's Monday, November 24th, and Star columnist Sam McDowell and beat writer Pete Sweeney are here to discuss the Chiefs. We might even get a pop-in from Vahe Gregorian, so be on the lookout for that. For the first time in a month, we're discussing a Chiefs victory along with their next game at the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. Hello, Sam.
A month.
A month.
A month, you say?
Yeah, two games in an open week or a bye week. That makes it a month. Pete, what's going on?
Yeah, that is surprising to hear, but I thought it was a very interesting game today, so we got treated with that.
Yep, the Chiefs defeated the Indianapolis Colts 23-20 in overtime. This Kansas City was down 20-9 entering the fourth quarter. They rallied to tie it up and win it in the extra period to improve to 6-5. And we're actually recording this on Sunday night in the press box after the game, so I don't know where everybody else stands in the playoff picture.
Jacksonville won in overtime as well.
Ooh, that's a tough one for the Chiefs, for Jacksonville to win.
Yeah.
Okay, but this was huge for the Chiefs, having lost to the Bills and the Broncos their last couple of games, and they're on their way to a loss in this one. They reversed course and got it done. Sam, what does this outcome mean?
Well, just what you just said, that used to be the identity of this team. It has been the identity of this team for a long time, is that they do reverse course end game. Like when things aren't going well, they still, they find a way to win. They find a way to pull, their best out of their worst. And we've not seen that quality from the Chiefs all year until today. They were 0-5 when trailing in the second half this year. They were 0-5 in one-score games because they were 0-5 when trailing in the second half. And you mentioned down 20-9. That's what I led my post-game column with for the Star, is that they're down 11 points, and they send the defense back on the field after a fumble. That was the low point of the season right there. And Chris Jones, I think, got the energy in the building going, which got the energy in the defense going. Leo Chenal told me that the energy in the huddle before that play was, we're not losing this game. We just haven't seen that attitude from the Chiefs. We're not losing this game. And how many times did I nag you guys saying somebody's got to make a play at some point? And then in the fourth quarter and overtime, there was 8 different guys we could have picked to write about making a play at some point. And we hadn't seen that quality from the Chiefs yet.
I was going to bring up the Kareem Hunt fumble because I think at that moment, down 2 scores with what we had seen all day, that felt like the end of the playoff hopes at that moment. It just didn't seem like there would be any chance for them to rally back because this team has felt really different in terms of that mystique and that magic. It's just been absent. And I think finally it came through today. And I think the biggest reason the Chiefs were able to come back and win the football game were the 4 3-and-outs, because the Chiefs offense scored the touchdown. I remember they actually stalled out on a drive. And meanwhile, the Chiefs defense just kept on giving them chance. And then eventually they were able to break through.
I want to go back to the Kareem Hunt fumble again. We're still trying to track this down, but I believe that was Kareem Hunt's first lost fumble since the first play of his rookie year for the Chiefs.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nope. We're still trying to confirm that. We can't find another fumble by Kareem Hunt since play 1 of game 1 in 2017. And, of course, that was the game at the New England Patriots. The Patriots were the defending Super Bowl champs. Hunt playing in his first game, fumbles, and then goes on to set an NFL record in that game for, total yards, I think receiving and rushing, and had an incredible game. So
he fumbled 6 times, but the other ones you're saying he recovered.
They weren't lost fumbles.
Wow.
But we're trying to check. Like I said, if that's true, that'd be an amazing stat.
I noticed Kareem right after the play, and of course every player is going to be upset at they turn over the football, but he looked sick. He was so disgusted.
He slammed his helmet on the sideline.
He was disgusted with himself, and that's probably part of the reason. He just doesn't lose fumbles.
And you guys are right. That was the Chiefs had put together another drive to get into the red zone. Mm-hmm. On the play before that, I believe it was one play before, Mahomes Juju Smith-Schuster on a well-designed play from, I believe, from the 19 that looked like Schuster had gotten behind, Smith-Schuster had gotten behind the defense, and with a better pass would have gotten in the end zone right there. But, after that play, I just shook my head and said, they're never going to get in the end zone again. It's ridiculous. They were piling up yards, they were piling up first downs, they were dominating time of possession. They just could never get in the end zone. And I'm with you. I thought that was the end of the game for the Chiefs.
So he's fumbled 6 times, now 7. 4 of them he's recovered himself. You mentioned his first one ever. Today was his most recent, obviously, but the only other one a teammate recovered. So you're right. Only the second time that he's lost a fumble in his career.
How many rushing attempts does he have in his career? And receiving, you'd have to add those up. And he wasn't a return guy, so I guess it would just be rushing and receiving.
Yeah, I mean, he's rushed the ball 1,300 times. Plus, I mean, heck, it seemed like another 100 today. And he's got 250 catches. So, I mean, he's like at 1,700, 1,600 touches in his career.
That's crazy. And in both times, the Chiefs are now 2-0 when Kareem Hunt loses a fumble.
Right. They also had the longest, because their lack of losing a fumble as a team dates back to last year. And it's over a season worth of games. And it's the longest streak since like 1960 of not losing a fumble.
I didn't realize that. I knew they were the only team in the NFL this year that had not lost a fumble.
Yeah, and they'd fumbled enough to do it. But yeah, I mean, this is, I asked Patrick Mahomes about that moment. And he said you could have folded in that situation, been like that the rest of the season. But I asked him, I said, what was the energy like on the sideline? Because I saw Kareem Hunt slam his helmet. And Patrick Mahomes almost never acknowledges this, but he said, obviously the energy is not good. And it's rare to see him. Yeah. Usually he's like, we're fine. We're just like, we got to get the next play. This team hasn't been a next play team this year. That's been the point, is they haven't been able to respond to these moments. And that's why, like the Colts are a good team. And so to respond to a good team, like I had phrased it in my column that I thought this was more like the old Chiefs, not because they played great, but because they didn't, and they still won a game anyway.
Some of the first words out of Mahomes' mouth, and I mean, they spoke volumes to me, was, this is just what we needed. As in being down, things not going right, and then just finding a way. Because in the 5 one-score games this year, you've lost, and you haven't been able to push through and will your way through like we have seen in previous seasons. And I just took it as something where he really feels like they're going to be able to build off this moment. And I think that energy is necessary. You talk about the Jags win. The Cowboys just came off a stunning victory where they came back multiple scores down and won the game. They're feeling themselves too. And then both of these teams in their respective conferences are going to really need to win this game if they're going to make the playoffs. So you have a pseudo playoff game coming up in just 4 short days. And I think it's good for Chiefs fans to hear that the quarterback feels like they needed this game to have that right energy.
We didn't know it at the time, but after Kareem Hunt lost the fumble, the Chiefs had started their stretch. The Chiefs defense had started their run of 4 straight 3-and-outs to end the game. Oh. And we're gonna, in the post game, we spent a lot of time hearing from Patrick Mahomes, from Rashee Rice, who we need to give a lot of credit to for this outcome, and Kareem Hunt, who, despite the fumble, scored the Chiefs' only touchdown and rushed for 104 yards, became the first Chiefs 100-yard rusher this season. So a lot of good things happened on the offensive side. Harrison Butker, of course, 5 field goals, including the game tying and the game winner, both with no time left on the clock. But that was pretty darn impressive what the Chiefs defense did. 4 straight 3-and-outs. And
it's number 1 offense in the league.
Yes,
like
number 1.
Almost every metric you look at, like I had posted something earlier this week, analyzing the Chiefs offense. They're like 2nd in yards per drive. They're like 3rd in points per drive. And the Colts are first in both of those categories. And in terms of on a per play, like expected points added, which I look at EPA, like they're first in, and nobody runs the ball better than the Colts does because nobody else has Jonathan Taylor. they swallowed Jonathan Taylor up. And what was the most symbolic of that was the last 3-and-out stop where Drew Tranquil comes through the gap up the middle. And it looks like, I mean, a week ago, Chris Jones said that the Broncos knew one of their plays late in the game. It looked like the Chiefs knew what was coming on the last play of the game, like that they really put in their homework. And, I mean, you had 3-and-outs, but then the Colts get the ball first in overtime to where you might make all of this meaningless, all the work you had done in the fourth quarter, if not for that play that your defense made and Drew Tranquil in particular. But that's what I mean. You could call up any number of guys on the defense for a lot of the totality of those 12 plays.
Yeah, I wrote about that play, so I watched it a little bit more off the broadcast. And Chris Jones crashes left, which of course draws the attention of multiple linemen. And Drew Tranquil, to your point, Sam, knew that they were going to run immediately. And because Chris Jones had done that, there's a perfect lane for Drew Tranquil to power through, to streak through, and wrapped up Taylor. And this was the second lowest output of Taylor's season in terms of rushing yardage. And this was coming off a game where he almost had nearly 300 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns against the Falcons. So, and off a bye, right? He did that and then had a week to rest. And so just a tremendous performance by the Chiefs run defense. And I also wrote this in my article. It's not going to be tougher than this. This is the toughest back that you're going to face. You might see him again, but theoretically speaking, you're now prepared for every other back that you see.
Was it 60 yards? How many yards for Jonathan Taylor?
58.
58. Yeah. 58 yards for Jonathan Taylor. Okay, this is
the second lowest total of the year.
Was it? Who? Yeah. What was his lowest?
The Steelers lost.
Okay, all right. So that's kind of a key, isn't it? Yeah. To stopping the Colts is to stop Jonathan Taylor. Hey, this is SportsBeat KC. We're here with Pete Sweeney and Sam McDowell. I'm Blair Kerkhoff. We're talking the Chiefs and their 23-20 overtime victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Jones is a player who's not quiet. We hear him speak every week to the media, and he twice even. He comes to the weekly media session on Thursday, and then after games, he speaks pretty frequently. I don't think he had a good stat line today, but I thought he had a big impact on the game. I thought he was as active as we've seen him this year. I thought he was mucking things up pretty good.
I thought he was the best player the Chiefs had on the field today. And you're right, Blair. It's odd to say that because I think he had one solo tackle. But so much of what the Colts were not able to do in their passing game was because Chris Jones was in the backfield. And it's the Chris Jones that the Chiefs paid for. I mean, he occupies 3 times the amount against the salary cap as any player on their defense. And when he's not playing like that, it shows. And it showed in Buffalo, for example. It showed in the second half in Denver when I thought he had a great first half and disappeared in the second half. When Chris Jones plays like that, the whole operation looks like it fits together.
And it's funny. It's like we're talking about Kareem Hunt's initial fumble. It's like 2017 again, right? The 2 of the most important players in this game were Chris Jones and Kareem Hunt. And it's 2025. What world are we living in?
Are the Chiefs ever going to get a takeaway? It just seems like, my gosh, they cannot get a turnover. Meanwhile, the Colts on the second snap of the game for the Chiefs.
Unbelievable play.
It was a great play. The deflected interception and the Colts are in the end zone a couple of plays later. And then, of course, the Kareem Hunt fumble that we've spent a lot of time talking about. But the Chiefs, it's been a few games now since the Chiefs have had a takeaway.
Daniel Jones was begging him. I mean, he threw a ball right to, was it Shamari Connor, Nick Bolton, but crashed into each other. He throws a ball on that initial drive that we talked about where they're, down 11. It's early fourth quarter, and they're backed up against their own goal line. He throws a ball to Nick Bolton, but Nick Bolton's just playing the man. And it's like the ball's coming right at you. And, I mean, Jones is, I think, fumbled 6 times in the last 2 weeks. He's thrown 3 picks. Like, he had opportunities. He gave the Chiefs some opportunities to try and end their drought. But I've always thought there was a lot of luck that goes into turnovers. But today, proved it otherwise. There were opportunities there, and the Chiefs just couldn't take advantage.
I think it's worth saying, too, I think some of those opportunities, or a lot of them, came because of what Jones was doing. Chris Jones, not Daniel Jones. And I think Daniel Jones...
Both.
Right. I think Daniel Jones is a good, serviceable quarterback, but when he feels the heat, he can make some really dumb decisions. And the Chiefs had opportunities, just weren't able to get one.
That's a good point. So much what the Colts do is predicated on just being on schedule. A lot of it's only one read stuff and sometimes two read stuff, to where they're programming their quarterback to play a very specific way. And when your defense prevents him from playing that way, it looks rough. It looks like it did in the fourth quarter for him.
Okay, let's take a break and pick up this Chiefs conversation when we return. We're back on SportsBeat KC, the sports podcast of the Kansas City Star and KCUR. Pete Sweeney's here, so is Sam McDowell. I'm Blair Kerkhoff. And look who stopped in.
Great to see you guys again. I feel like we're on the set of the Murph Griffin show, but it's Blair Kerkhoff in the catbird seat.
Vahe Gregorian, good to see you. Of course, the first half of the show, you were still writing. So tell us about your column.
I was kind of slogging like the Chiefs through the first three quarters. Then found a breakthrough at the end, at least in my mind. So I tried to write about. Obviously, they're sort of, for the cliche term, backs against the wall just to get in the playoffs with this win. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, if they didn't make the playoffs this year, which would have been increasingly quite likely with a loss today, I think it hints at the end of an era. And I don't think the narrative for a dynasty includes sitting out the playoffs. That doesn't mean it would be irredeemable if they don't make the playoffs, and this win certainly doesn't mean they will make the playoffs. I mean, there's a lot in play, but it just felt like that today, and I think in my mind that added some weight to what was really at stake today.
I think Next Gen Stats had it going into the day, and Pro Football Focus's model was pretty similar, to where it becomes less than a 1 in 3 chance if the Chiefs make the playoffs. But that was before Jacksonville kicks off, and Jacksonville ends up winning today. So I would think that it's probably a tad under 30% that the Chiefs get in the playoffs if they lose today. And with the win, it was, about 60. And I think, the markets, like the betting markets, have the Chiefs' chances higher because they think the Chiefs are a really good team.
You used this number coming into today, I think, but I can't remember what the number was. Where did it stand entering the day?
It was about, so when you look at some of the analytical models like PFF and ESPN's model, it's in the low 50s, barely better than a coin toss, about 55%. And the betting market, those more generous, around 65%. Now, like I said, the Jaguars held serve, but they're not just chasing the Jaguars, and they're chasing the Chargers as well.
Where did Chris Jones come up with his 23% that he said?
To make the playoffs? I don't know where I'm not going to count for where Chris Jones comes up with anything.
Well, we know it's not social media because he deleted social media.
So, yeah, that's right. Well, have we asked him lately if he's reinstated it? I don't know.
Well, the Chiefs certainly feel better about themselves now than they did before this game, but they've got a big task on Thursday. A Dallas Cowboys team that just overcame a 21-0 deficit and beat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21 in Arlington. Great win for Dallas. I think that makes them 5-5-1, and the Chiefs are 6-5. The Chiefs will be favored because Chiefs, that's just sort of how it goes, right? Chiefs are always favored. But I still to the point where they can't afford a loss here. I know that you got to beat the AFC teams for sure, but they've lost too many now. They can't afford another loss.
No, because the other teams that are vying for the wild card are good teams in similar boats to the Chiefs. And we just talked about the Jaguars. I wouldn't really put them in that category, but the Bills and Ravens are fighting for similar spots now. And so I just think every win is huge. And, for the Chiefs too, they don't have tiebreakers against the Jaguars and Bills. And so you're going to have to win on the number, meaning you need your win column to be one more than those teams to get past them.
It's the first AFC playoff team they've beaten, by the way. They were 0-4 against the rest of the AFC playoff field before today. So to Pete's point, they have the tiebreaker over nobody.
You know, I thought, I don't know if you guys had the same thought, but the win felt so significant as it happened, but I had the binoculars on Patrick as the game ended, and he was just very, wasn't jumping around, right? It's a win you have to have. And by the way, you got, 96 hours to be ready for the next one. And I just thought they were very sort of businesslike in that sense. They expressed it more broadly, but as far as their body language and everything, it was like, okay, well, we got to start getting ready. Chris Jones said they'll start looking at tape tonight. So I think they understand that what all they accomplished today will be totally undone if they lose Thursday.
They came out of this game a little banged up, though, didn't they? Noah Gray he took a big hit on a incredible catch.
Sounded like a concussion.
Yeah.
Gray, and then Trey Smith was the other one. Had to leave the game, so I think that is also something to watch.
Didn't he leave, come back, and then basically
Threw back.
sat out the second half?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a really significant one because the Cowboys just acquired Quinnen Williams at the trade deadline, who's one of the absolute best defensive tackles in the game, and the Chiefs have matched up pretty well against defensive tackles because they have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. And Kingsley Suamataia has had a pretty good year, but you go with, like Mike Caliendo, and no offense intended, but I know who Quinnen Williams will be lining up against on Thursday if that's the Chiefs' starting offensive lineman.
So the biggest thing that came out of this game was the Chiefs' victory. Does it make you feel any more confident in their path to a playoff season, just the way it happened, or is there still some question about this?
I would just say, and I think Sam really explored this, but I would just say, one of the things I found myself writing about a couple of weeks ago was sort of the question of whether that late game grit, for lack of a better term, it's just sort of gone. The wherewithal is just kind of gone, or if it's just sort of been dormant. And I've been leaning towards it's still in there, but various circumstances aren't bringing it out. And so I guess I would submit that this is a link in the chain. I feel like it tells you they can do this. It is there. Whether they do it, I just don't know. I mean, but I don't know what you guys think.
I think they probably have room for one loss on the rest of their season, because I'd anticipated that Jacksonville would go 9-8 maybe, but they beat the Chargers and beat the Cardinals, and so you've got Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. Now the advantage the Chiefs have are, other than this game Thursday, their toughest games are at home with the Chargers, Texans, and Broncos. And you go to Tennessee and Vegas. So to me, you got to hold serve at home and
Lose no more than one.
Lose no more than one more. But you're also, the Chiefs aren't a team that really. It's weird for us to be talking about getting into the playoffs. Like theoretically, this team should be trying to get good seeding too. Not just get the 7th seed in the playoffs.
I think they probably win on Thursday, and I think just stemming from the way they won this game and coming off what I believe will be another win on Thursday on the road, I expect the entire narrative to shift from the Chiefs are broken, the dynasty's over, to look at this 12 seed in the NCAA tournament that really nobody wants to run into, and I think that'll change quick. This is probably going to be, and I think we should mention this will probably be the most watched regular season game in history.
You're right.
Yeah. So I think the Chiefs can change a lot of minds on Thursday.
Not only that, but it's the first time Patrick Mahomes will play in the stadium that, of the team that he grew up watching and pulling for. And I think there's something to that. I think there's an emotional component that will be in play for Mahomes. He'll want to do really well in this setting.
Didn't they have a game? Did Tech play a game there? He had a monster
we'll
game there.
have to ask him that. I think he did. I think they played Baylor.
I think.
At the end of a regular season.
In fact, they're different than this, obviously. But
I remember that Baylor game. So last year I'd written a story about their scouting of Patrick Mahomes, and I remember Mike Bergonzi, who's now the Titans GM, he's the assistant GM with the Chiefs, showed me his notes, and one of them was out of that game. And there was one play in specific, which I found, where he said he just had written, "What is he doing here?" And you can go back and watch it, and that's probably your reaction to it as well.
I believe that was the final game of his first year playing for Tech, and he put up like 500 yards passing or something like that. It was crazy. We'll talk to him about it this week, but
Rashee, remember every play of it.
oh my gosh, just like a golfer remembers every shot, he remembers every single play that I think he's ever made. And Rashee Rice going home as well. Played at SMU, is from Texas, and
Nick Bolton, right?
Yeah, Nick Bolton, a Texan. Yep. So the Chiefs are playing in Dallas for the first time since 2017. They're playing on Thanksgiving in Dallas for the first time since 1995. That was one of those 13-3 Chiefs division winning teams, and that was one of their few losses that year. I think it was 24-12. They lost that game. It was a Derek Thomas, Neil Smith, Chiefs team. So Chiefs don't play on Thanksgiving that often. They played the first game on the NFL, televised by the NFL Network. I think it was in 2006. They beat the Broncos here, and they have not played on Thanksgiving since. Do we like the Thanksgiving Day game? Are we good with Chiefs playing on that day?
I like it. I think it'll be fun. Some inside football here. Everyone seems to just be talking about the spread that Jerry Jones provides. So I'm eager to see what that looks like. And I
especially on that day of all days.
Yeah. Again, continuing some media insight. I enjoy when I actually like Thursday games. It's a mad rush. Like these next few days will be busy, but you get the game over with and you can kind of relax for the weekend. And from a team standpoint, I think when you win that game and you get to sit back and relax, the team's usually treated as a half a bye. Like Andy Reid doesn't have him back till Monday or Tuesday. And so you can get these 2 wins, you can feel refreshed with the rest of the season just in front of you and probably feel really good about your outlook, even despite, what would be, I think the Chiefs hope, right, for a 7-5 record.
Any of you guys ever play football on Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, used to play pickup every year on Thanksgiving. That was the thing.
You had to, right?
I was at every Thanksgiving. A lot of cousins.
Yeah.
Some people do a turkey trot where you run, like you do some kind of 5K. Not for me. not my game.
I'll do the turkey drop.
Yeah. Turkey nap.
That was always a thing in our neighborhood to get everybody together and didn't, it's like people of all ages too, male and female, and fathers, grandfathers, little kids, everybody got a reception on the turkey bowl.
Those are happy days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope your Thanksgiving is a happy one for everyone. So thanks for listening. We're out of here, and to everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving, and thankfully, I'll do another ending later. Here are a few things on my radar this week. The college football regular season concludes for the local teams this holiday weekend, starting with Kansas playing host to Utah on Friday. On Saturday, Kansas State plays Colorado in Manhattan, and Missouri goes to Arkansas. Also this weekend, high school football state championship games in Kansas and the semifinals in Missouri. Finally, sports betting goes live in Missouri on December 1st. That's next Monday. Bettors can open accounts and make deposits now. Go to betmissouri.com for more information. Well, that'll do it for this week. A programming note, look for a special edition of SportsBeat KC this Friday. The Chiefs crew will be in Dallas, and we'll discuss the Chiefs-Cowboys game after we've polished off our turkey dinner. Thanks to the production staff of Suzanne Hogan, Monty Davis, Gabriella, Lacey, and Irvin Zhang, and our editors Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen. We'll be back Friday with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City.